Morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening. We'll wait for about 3 more minutes, and then we're going to start. Okay, welcome, everyone. My name is Ernesto Casas. I'm part of the Ingate pre-sales engineering team, and I'm going to be your host for the next 45 minutes. Thank you for attending to this session. And today's session is a very hot topic in the market right now. Regarding teleworking. Teleworking is a buzzword. I mean, I think it's one of the most common words in any social media right now. So before we start, let me move to the next slide. Okay, just some housekeeping. You should be looking right now the screen share I have, and you're gonna see a few buttons on the bottom of the screen. One for chat, one for raise your hand, and the other one for questions and answers. So um, we're going to be capturing all your questions during the session. Just write down your questions on the question and answers window. And if you have any need for any specific question regarding you don't see, you don't hear, something like that, use the chat button or raise your hand, and some of my team will be reaching you and looking what's going on. Okay, so having said that, let's move forward. Uh, First, a little bit of who we are, who is Ingate. Ingate is a Sweden-based company. Our headquarters are based on Sweden, Stockholm. We were established in 2001, but we have been on the technology market for many years before that because we were part of we were a spin-off of a previous company called Intertex that started on the 80s. We were always involved in any type of technology on access. We were manufacturing a very successful line of products for DSL modems and things like that. But since 2001, we were the first company talking about uh, voice and real-time communications firewalls. There was no specific concept by that time, and we created a name called separator, like something that is separating your edge in your network for SIP traffic. We have been a leader and innovator. We have a bunch of registered patents, and we have been participating for many years in the standard bodies providing input and RFCs, etc. We have deployed tens of thousands of systems so far. We have operations worldwide. We have offices in the US. We have offices and link offices in Japan. We have distribution channels almost in any single country. We were the first enterprise session border controller certified by ICSA laboratories and has a security SIP void firewall. We are a single line of products company. We don't manufacture anything else, and we don't develop anything else besides our session border controllers. And in a variety of different flavors. So let's go to the main topic now. We have been listening on the media term called the new normal. What was normal before and what is going to be the new normal. But all this teleworker trend that has been accelerated for the last few months is something that the market has been working on for many years. It's a big jump that happened this year because the COVID-19 situation. But based on some statistics on the market, until 2018, it was already a trend of people working from home, not as a normal way of life, but also has a once in a while type of thing. I mean, and especially in what we call the top quartile in terms of income, people that they spend percentage of their working days at home. So most of the concepts are not new, like how I enable some resources in my house in order to work, etc. But the big jump happened this year, and we can see based on the initial statistics we have about March 22 that about 60% of the top quartile employees, we means the high skilled people, is already working from home, and a small percentage is still staying home because the situation, but is not able to work from home. But it's a big jump from 2018, where only 27% of the population of the working force was working from home once in a while, and now 100% working from home, 60% of the top quartile. And that opens a lot of additional consequences that are good from our point of view. Now companies can reach more skilled people no matter where they are. It's not just looking in town. And even skilled people, they can apply now to work for companies that are not even close to them. So there's big changes happening, and the new normal seems to continue pushing for the teleworker concept. So having said that, there is a need for a quick transition. So because COVID, we no longer have the luxury of plan evolving strategy. I mean, it's not a company saying, I'm going to plan to sometime in the future to have all my employees or a big percentage of my employees working from home. So what is happening right now is putting a lot of pressure in, and time is of the essence. There is no time for doing a planning process. So large corporation may just need to speed up some plans that were already in place, having already adopted technologies. I mean, there is a large corporate America has been implementing a bunch of technologies in order to facilitate working from home or working remotely. New communications tool, mobility tools, collaboration, etc., etc. But the vast majority of the Enterprise America, well, they were not even thinking about it. So one of the most basic transition goals is to enable a seamless operation to the employees from their new place of work. I mean, in other words, I want for my call center agents or my sales guys, etc., work from home like they were working from their traditional desk at the office. So they need to sit in virtually on their desk and have access to the typical office resources that they used to have. Okay, so one of the most basic resources needed is access to their communication infrastructure. So that's why we are going to put some emphasis in this session regarding telecom. So this session will explain the challenge and potential responses to help on this telephony transition in an effective and low impact way. So what are the most typical questions IT managers have? Once they are now in front of this COVID-19 situation, what are the typical questions they are asking themselves right now? So the first set of questions is regarding what is the impact of on top of my existing infrastructure? Do I need to expand my PBX? Do I need to put some more licenses? What about how many ports and capacities, etc.? Do I have telecom infrastructure to take care of the additional demand that is going to happen? Because if I have my employees working from home and let's say they are using cell phones to get in contact with their customers, etc., company pay cell phones. I mean, there is an increase in the PSTN traffic that is in the company or enterprise budget. They have to pay now for doubling the number of calls, because if I have a customer calling in a PRI or a SIP trunk to the call center, and now the call is sent via the PSTN again to reach the employee or the sales guy on his cell phone, now I have two calls instead of one. So that is part of the typical questions IT guys are making themselves. Another type of question is, what is the impact on my operational expenses? As I said, do I need to pay for more traffic, more minutes, etc.? What are the additional challenges that we haven't been managing before? Is there any additional challenge? For instance, when I have a new employee and I have to deploy the desk resources for this employee, I have all the resources inside my company, the IT guys, etc., to do provisioning, setup, phone plugin, phone configuration, etc. But now I'm sending a device to an employee's home, and maybe the employee is not even an IT guy, and he needs to provision everything. How can I just solve that problem? How can I make it easy? Just out of the box, plug in the phone, and that's it. Is it any of the known SIP challenges that we were never paying any attention will raise now? Like, for instance, when I have now extensions of my SIP infrastructure located on the internet somewhere in the employee house, on the employee home office, and there are many components in the call flow, like the home router, the firewall, etc. How is that going to affect the good establishment of a call? How is it going to affect the call quality? How is it going to affect the typical, I can hear you, I cannot hear you now. There is one way audio only. There is no audio. And there are things on the middle that I as a company, I don't control. I don't have access to the carrier provided firewall at home. Those are the type of questions that IT guys and anyone responsible for now doing this transition, they need to find responses. So we need to break the problem into different pieces and to find some goals. So this is a kind of a typical structure of where the problems, what are the typical decisions we need to make. So one of them is related to the devices. What are the points of contact the employee is going to use? The phones, the endpoints. Okay, what type of endpoints he's going to have? I'm going to just move the phone he has on his desk at the office to his house. I'm going to deploy new phones. I'm going to plan for a different type of phones that doesn't cost as much as they cost the ones that I have at the office. I'm going to use, am I going to use soft phones instead of hard phones? Or I'm going to use any other technology besides the traditional SIP phones like WebRTC or things like that? So that's a decision process that we need to make, define, and select. Uh, the other set of actions and goals uh, is just moving remote time communication device to the remote worker's location. How about provisioning those endpoints? So I do a drop ship from, I don't know, voice supply or any other voice or IP vendor that drop ship to my employee house. He's gonna get a box. He's gonna get it from Amazon or whatever, and he's gonna just take it out of the box and plug it in. So how that phone is gonna be provisioned and connected to my uh, telephone infrastructure? How is it going to be provisioned? How the provision is gonna be different of the way I provision phones in my office? Do I need to roll the truck and send an IT guy to every single employee house? So we need to find answers to those type of questions and define a plan. And last but not least is what about security? So if I start installing endpoints or devices that are connected to my IT infrastructure, my telecom infrastructure, and they are located out of my network borders, going through third-party networks, better I take in consideration what are the security uh, concerns or what are the security problems that are going to be start facing. Can my calls be tapped and recorded? Can someone take uh, uh, or impersonate an extension and make phone calls on my behalf? Can I get fraud? So we need to define what is going to be the security strategy. And we have to define something that is autonomous. And I call autonomous because some of the elements you have when deploying remote endpoints are elements that you have no control. For instance, you cannot change. Most of the cases, you are not able to change any programming or configuration on the router provided by the internet service provider to the house. Okay. So how can I make it independent of whatever they have configured there? Okay, so the big question here is, it is just finding a response for extending SIP beyond my corporate border? Is that the real problem we want to solve? So when we review the real life, I mean, we review the endpoint functionalities or whatever telecom functionalities the employee is using, he's not using only SIP. SIP is just part of the full environment he is involved or he is connected to. SIP only is in charge of moving the media and setting up the connection back and forth. But there are many additional things, like, for instance, presence management. If you are doing presence management and you want to know if the employee is active in a call or not, or if he is busy or is in a meeting, etc., there are some other tools that are related to the telecom infrastructure, but are not necessarily using SIP. They are using maybe XMPP, which is a total different protocol, or integrating to the corporate um, directories using LDAP, or uh, changing configuration or functionalities on the phone by activating HTTP or HTTPS transactions, and sending files or information to the phones that are needed locally using FTP or TFTP, or using REST API for some applications like navigating in my voicemail directly on my desktop, on my desk phone. Okay, so that means that the problem is not as easy as just connecting SIP from my telecom infrastructure to the endpoint. Okay, so in this diagram, I'm trying to show what are the different elements that are involved in deploying, let's say, telecom resources at my employee desk at home. Okay, so, and I divided in different stages. Let's say the initial stage here is what we call the discovery stage. The discovery stage is whatever you have a new device that needs to be deployed uh, remotely at home, there is a way the device is going to try to find out how I get my information to get configured. And that's a discovery process. And when you see how it works in a local environment, in your corporate network, they usually start by using layer 1, layer 2 protocols like ARP discovery or requesting information to the DHCP server. But now in the remote place, you don't have uh, layer 1 type of um, techniques in order to find where is my server, because my server is not even at my house. The DHCP is part of the infrastructure you have on the router that you have connected to the internet at home, but you don't have access to the DHCP most of the time. So you are not going to ask the employee. You have to go to the DHCP server on your house and go and add an option 66 and do this and that. Okay, because the employee maybe don't even have the skills to do that. So that's one of the main limitations starting deploying phones without sending an IT guy, of course. But now everybody stay home, right? So I don't even have an easy way to send IT guys to every single home or every single employee home. Okay, then you have a provisioning process, the set on blue. Once the discovery process happens and you understand and the phone understand, okay, I know now how can I get my configuration information, my certificates or whatever is needed for me to start working. So that's a process, okay? And I have a question mark here because this is one of the roadblocks that we're gonna find out in later slides. Then we have, once the configuration is done, you have the SIP stage. Now the phone is able to talk. Now you are able to make phone calls, etc. But also there are some other applications that needs to be set up on the phone that will use other type of protocols and need to interact with corporate applications like accessing the corporate directory or updating my information on the phone with from my CRM, etc., etc., etc. So those are what we call the 4 stages, okay? And we need to understand when we are moving to a corporate strategy to work from home, and we have seen this, I mean, we are talking from the experience. We are helping now deploy large corporations, insurance companies, banks, etc., that are moving thousands of employees that used to work on premise to work from home. And this is a big challenge for them. I mean, this is the area where they are facing the real challenges. Okay, so this is a simplified view of what it needs to be done. So we have a corporate network where we have all the, let's say, server type or server side resources to respond to each one of those stages. But now the endpoints are not locally located, okay? So we need some type of devices that are able to intermediate and manage not only SIP, okay, but also start managing other type of traffic that will be used by the endpoints, no matter which type of endpoints are you using. Okay, so I still have a question mark on the discovery process side, and there are some ways to manage that. I mean, there is a basic manual way, like the only action the employee needs to do is fill in an IP address on the phone screen when he takes the phone out of the box. That's the easiest one. But there are other ways to do that, and in this case, it will depend on vendors. Okay. This is what we call the stone on the road. I'm not going to go in detail on each one of these slides. You're going to have copy of all these presentation materials, and you can take a look to it. But in this slide, I'm explaining that depending on the vendor, for instance, there are phone vendors like Grandstream, Avaya, Mitel, Yelling, Polycom, etc., that they already have a strategy to do what is known on the market as a zero-touch provisioning, zero-touch provisioning. Okay? And each one of them has a different way to do it. But once you learn the concept, you can implement the same strategy by yourself if you have good developers, and it can be done. So this device that sits in between my corporate edge and my external network, and the external network, the internet, let's say in this case, and to reach home office phones, desk phones, tech phones, soft phones, WebRTC clients, mobile soft phones, etc. This device will be a single, what we call a single point of service. Everybody is going to be referring, every service on the remote side will be referring to the Ingate, to this consolidated device, to use it as a SIP proxy, SIP registrar, provisioning server, application server, presence server, etc. And I'm not saying that some of them will reside on the separator. In other words, I'm not saying the separator will become a provisioning server, but it will be a mediator between the real provisioning server and the remote devices. Okay, and same thing is going to happen with LDAP, HTTPS, REST API, or even WebRTC gateways. So the Ingate is a separator engine. The separator engine includes all these functionalities and Ingate firewall reverse proxy. Those two components are the ones that you are going to use to build the flows needed to implement any of these functionalities. Okay, so what has been Ingate's response in terms of what the separator does? So separator, which is the name of our product family, has been in the market for more than 20 years. It's the only SIP engine in the market that has an advanced firewall router core. Instead of most of the firewall manufacturers that they are, let's say, SIP aware, we are just the contrary. We are a SIP engine that is firewall aware. And we can do, on top of managing all the traditional real-time communications, we can do on top of that, managing all other type of traffic. The features that are more relevant for teleworker endpoint deployments that are included on the Ingate, what we call the obvious ones. So we are an advanced remote connectivity natural first resolution, so we can solve all the problems that reach correctly any phone that is on any employee home behind and not under our control firewall that can break the media or can break the signaling. So that NAT traversal resolution is being taken care by the Ingate. Even using the internal proprietary algorithms that we have, but also we can implement on the same Ingate and a stone and turn server, if that is the way you want to go. We have options in order to enable what we call DNS override, which is a built-in private DNS SRV record server. We are a full SIP proxy. We are a SIP registrar and location server. We do RTP and SRTP transcoding. We can do conversion between any transport protocols like UDP, TCP, TLS, WebSockets, WebSecure sockets. We can do media transcoding, G729 to G711, etc. And we can manage video relay and support any video codec for relay. But there are some other features that are not as obvious that are included as part of the Ingate separator. So we have a full WebRTC over WebSockets or web secure sockets to SIP gateway. In other words, let's say that on this transition to remote workers, you decide that certain percentage of your employees will not even have a phone, not even a soft phone. They have access to the internet via any device that has a web browser, a laptop or a tablet or whatever, and they are going to use a WebRTC phone. It's a web-based client, okay? But happens to be that my PBX doesn't support WebRTC. Well, we can use the Ingate to do the gateway, to be the gateway between WebRTC clients and SIP communication with my PBX infrastructure. So I can start deploying WebRTC clients in my employee's house without having a WebRTC support on my PBX infrastructure, okay? Our WebRTC gateway has been tested with most of the traditional SDKs on the market for WebRTC, JSZip, ZipJS, Misu, Tubango, etc. We support for WebRTC DTLS and SRTP. We can do the ICE light termination, and we can also implement high availability. So the firewall rules and relays for reverse proxying, that's another non as obvious feature. So we have a very advanced firewall rules and relays for reverse proxying that we can use to, for instance, automate the process of a remote phone for provisioning using the same functionalities the PBX has for local on-premise phones. So we're going to be reverse proxying to help on that. And we can do FTTP, FTP, TFTP, HTTP, HTTPS provisioning, or any REST API applications, XMPP routing, LDAP redirection, HTTPS to HTTP conversion. So I can have HTTPS access from the outside, but I don't need to implement secure HTTP on my PBX or my web server on the inside. So it's flexible enough to build your own set of services and protocol attributes. So you can create any type of service that's flexible enough to do that. And support multiple relay types. We can do forward, relay, semi-transparent forward, FTP forward, TLS decryption, etc. So some additional side benefits. The Ingate, that could be an additional benefit that you can take advantage of when you're thinking about remote workers. Sometimes remote workers need not only their telecom infrastructure to be, excuse me, on the desk, but also they need to have a VPN access for some corporate back office applications. So happens to be that the Ingate is also a VPN server, and you can do IPsec or PPTP termination on the Ingate. So you can build your own tunnels not only for point-to-point with the remote office of each user, but also with road warrior clients on, let's say, for instance, laptops that are roaming around, going to hotels or working from the coffee shop, etc., or even the cell phones, the smartphones. Okay, so VPN is always an alternative for remote phones, but you usually don't deploy VPN to put everything inside the VPN, including real-time communications, because you're going to have a big challenge on managing quality of service. Also, you have added security functionalities to convert to TLS SRTP any communication on the outside. So I can have, because my infrastructure in my on-premise network, I don't use encryption for the media, nor encryption for the signaling. Once I go to the outside, to the public network, better I use TLS and SRTP. Okay, but I don't want to overload my PBX or my unified communication infrastructure on dealing with the encryption and compression and all this stuff. I want somebody to take care of that. So I can have the Engage just has a converter in between my corporate network and the external public network, converting from UDP to TLS or RTP to SRTP. Okay, so one more thing is what about all this situation and the trends of the new normal is also pushing a big in percentage of the enterprise America to move infrastructure to the cloud. Okay, so if that is the case for your real-time communications platform or infrastructure, moving your PBX or unified communications, etc., to the cloud, I want you to know that Ingate is ready for that. So we have Ingate available in the Amazon marketplace, in Azure, in Google Cloud. It's also you can deploy it in any VMware environment on any. If you have your own cloud data center based using Oracle VM, VirtualBox, or VMware, or even OpenStack, Ingate is ready for that. So you can deploy any of our products in any of those platforms, Microsoft Hyper-V, KVM, etc. So in summary, Ingate Separator is today the most comprehensive and complete solution to make cost-effective transitions to teleworking for your telephony and real-time communication infrastructure. For new customers that doesn't know Ingate, it serves as a single point of control and management, responding to the most typical questions and concerns. Sorry for the noise on the background. That's working from home. Okay, so for new customers, you can see the Ingate has a toolbox that will help you build any most of the typical solutions for any single point of management for real-time communications. For existing customers, this is a very straightforward decision how to add what I need in order to now move from the traditional SIP trunking service my Ingate is providing me to adding all these functionalities for the Ingate also to take care of my remote users. And cost-wise, is a very low impact, and most of those features are already built in on customers that are already using Ingate. Also, you count with my team and our post-sale support team also. We believe we are a good skill team for any pre-sales or post-sales engineering needed. Okay, and we are here to help you. So we have a large expertise in the market in multi-vendor interop challenges. So here's my contact information. What else? Any questions? I don't see any questions here. I have with me, okay, will you send the slides after the, yes, we will send the slides after the webinar, okay? You're gonna get an email, a thank you email, and you're gonna have the link to download the, how to prevent spoofing and fraud over SIP trunking. Well, there is the question is how to prevent spoofing and fraud over SIP trunking. There is a short-term response and a long-term response, because this is from the regulatory perspective, it's something the FCC in the US has been pushing for now some time, and even because the COVID-19, some of the final push has been delayed a little bit. There is something that is called steer and shaking that most of all the carrier should comply in the very short term. Steal and shaking is a technique to authenticate, to provide information on how much you can trust in a caller ID. Okay, and the technology to do that is implemented already. Is on the market. Most carriers are starting to deploy trials like Comcast and AT&T, as far as I remember. And I think, I'm not sure about other SBC vendors, but we have already steer and shaking implemented in the Ingate release 6.3. Is one more option for configuration. So we can behave as an attestation device, or you, and you can also, if you are not, if the Ingate is not the device doing the attestation, then we can get the information from the qualification on the carrier and qualify the call. So that is what we have. Also, we have a IDS IPS, which is a intrusion prevention, intrusion detection, where you can build very advanced rules to prevent traffic coming from known sources that will be, or detect patterns that maybe are trying to scan you or generate denial of service and so on. How to have technical training for resellers. Training were in Sweden, I think, but I think normal need e-learning or online training. Do you have? Okay, yes, we have more. We have several options for training. So we still have regular training at corporate in Sweden. Also, we have what we call vendor-sponsored training classes. We have very good relationships with most of the large vendors like Mitel, NEC, Avaya, etc. And we do training sponsored by them. Certification training. It's a hands-on training. Nowadays, we offer that with our partners in a hands-on online training. You don't need to move the people to a classroom. So we have implemented that already. We have a calendar for that. And also, our training hasn't been updated on the last 1.5 years, but it's also available for certification training in the SIP school. So you have Ingate training available at the SIP school as an e-learning type of thing. So I can be more precise. I will put responses to the answers to the questions you are making right now as part of our follow-up emails to you. I'm gonna send you more details regarding dates and training content, etc. But yes, we have certified training. Is Ingate certified with the Skype and Teams? No. Ingate is not certified with the Skype and Teams. We used to be part of on the initial steps of I don't even, communication server service something. Okay, we have been tested. We have tested Skype. We have customers with a Skype deployed and Teams deployed using Ingate. The problem of certification is not a problem in our site. We have been waiting on queue for Microsoft to do certification of our technology now for maybe a year or so. But Microsoft haven't decided. I mean, we are ready to be certified, but apparently Microsoft is not ready, or their strategy is different. So they just certified 2 large vendors. Okay, but we have customers using Teams. No, we had another question. Any issues connecting with Teams? We had in 6.2.2, where we started doing the testing in our labs. We find out some issues. We did the adjustments, and most of the typical direct connect type of scenarios has been tested, and they're working on release 6.3. Okay. But if you have any, I mean, if any of you have a specific deployment scenario, you can get in contact with me and we can go on details and we can even help you in building a proof of concept lab. Any other questions? It seems so far. Okay, I have with me two of our team members. I have Enrique Amaro with me, which is the sales director for Americas and business development. And I have Hillary Cole, which is part of our marketing team. I don't know, Enrique, if you want to say something.
No, just thank you very much. Regarding training, we do as well trainings specific for groups of companies, resellers. I mean, we're a very open company where we can schedule a specific training or customized training for your particular needs. If it's going to be for remote users, for zip trunks, or for integration with other platforms. I mean, we do, as Ernesto says, certified training, but we also do customized training, which is training specifically tied to your needs. And regarding teams, yes, we have some customers and we have many inquiries from our install base as well regarding teams. And the response is, yes, we are ready, but we are in the queue from Microsoft for maybe over a year. Steer and Shaking, yes, other big vendors as well, being certified with Steer and Shaking as well as Ingate. We are ready as well. We deploy some labs with Steer and Shaking for robocalls. And that's it. I mean, we are very competitive SBC solution for the medium, small, and large enterprise, as well as carriers or service providers in the range of 20,000 sessions. And again, thank you. And we are very open company that you can deal with, quick responses, and we always are available for our customers.
Okay, thank you, Enrique. Okay, if there is no more questions, no, I don't see any more questions. So I want to thank you everyone for attending to this session today. You're going to get more information. You're going to get a copy of this presentation. Also, there is in the same presentation is all my contact information. Our general manager was not available, was not possible for him to be present during this session today. He had a personal situation. So, but you can email me anytime. So my email also was on the invitation you got from us. Feel free to send me any questions, and I'll be happy to help you. So thank you, Hillary, for supporting us, and that's it for today. So I hope to see you on the next webinar. Thank you, everyone.